Burkina Faso has struck a 2.1 billion trade deal with China, finalized in 72 hours, centered on Shea butter, known as women gold. This agreement could transform Burkina Faso's economy, empower millions of women, and shift global power away from the West toward China. Here is the full story. Burkina Faso, a small West African nation often overlooked on the global stage, has just signed a groundbreaking $2.1 billion trade deal with China, and it happened in just 72 hours. This agreement could transform Burkina Faso's economy, empower millions of women, and most importantly, it signals a major shift in global power, challenging the influence of the United States and the West in Africa. So, what exactly is in this deal? Why shea butter of all things? And what does this mean for the future of Africa and global politics? Let's dive deep. To understand this deal, we first need to know who is leading Burkina Faso today. His name is Captain Ibrahim Traoré. In October 2022, at just 34 years old, he became the youngest leader in Africa after a coup that ousted the previous government. Traoré presents himself as a man of the people, a soldier who stepped up to defend Burkina Faso from both terrorism and decade of foreign exploitation. For years, Burkina Faso relied heavily on France, its former colonizer, and on the Western financial aid. But Traore has made it clear we are done being puppet. We will stand on our own. This stance has led him to pivot away from the France and the US and instead build new alliances with Russia, Turkey, and now most significantly China. And this new $2.1 billion trade agreement is proof of that shift. Now, you might be asking, why shea butter? What's so important about it? Shea butter, often called woman's gold, is a natural fat extracted from the nuts of the shea tree. It is usually used in global skincare products, cosmetics, chocolates, manufacturing, and even medicine. Burkina Faso is one of the world's largest producer of the shea butter. And here is the key. It is almost entirely produced by women in rural communities. For millions of African women, shea butter is not just a product, it's a lifeline, providing income, independence, and dignity. The global shea butter market is booming, valued at over $2.5 billion in 2025 and expected to reach nearly 4 billion in 2030. So when China steps in and signs a deal worth $2.1 billion, they are not just buying butter, they are buying influence, access, and long term partnership. Let's break down the deal. Burkina Faso and China agreed to a 2.1 billion trade pact centered on shea butter export. The entire agreement was finalized in just 74 hours. Shockingly fast timeline for such a massive deal. The entire agreement was finalized in just 72 hours, shockingly fast timeline for such a massive deal. Unlike Western trade deals, this one has no quotas, no restriction, no hidden strings attached. Now, here is why this matter even more. Recently, the United States slapped 50% tariff on shea butter import from Burkina Faso. That tariff crushed profit for local producer and made it nearly impossible for the product to compete in Western market. China saw the gap, moved quickly, and offered a lifeline. Instead of being strangled by US tariffs, Burkina Faso can now sell directly to China at full value. This is not just economics, it's strategy. China is winning influence while US looks outplayed. So, what does this deal mean for the people of Burkina Faso? First, it could empower millions of women. Shea butter production is almost entirely run by women's cooperatives. With a guaranteed market and billion in trade, these women could see their income rise dramatically. Second, it could stimulate local industries. Instead of exporting raw shea nuts, Burkina Faso can now invest in factories, processing plants, and packaging center, keeping more value inside the country. Third, It could boost the national economy. For a nation with GDP of just around $19 billion, a $2.1 billion trade deal is a massive. That's more than 10% of its economy tied of one product. Of course, there are risks. If purely managed, the money may flow to elites instead of workers, and overharvesting could damage the environment. But if done right, this deal could transform Burkina Faso's economic future. Beyond economics, this deal is a geopolitical earthquake. The United States and France have long dominated West Africa through trade, aid, and military presence, but their influence is fading. In the last 2 years, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso all expelled French troops and started seeking alternative partners. China, meanwhile, has expanding across Africa with the Belt and Road Initiative, building roads, railways, ports, and securing resource deals. This 2.1 billion Shea Butter Pact is just one part of larger strategy to become Africa's main economic partner. For Traoré, the message is clear. We don't need the West. We have other friends now. For the Washington, this is alarming. A product as small as a shea butter has become a symbol of how fast influence is shifting in Africa. Of course, not everyone is celebrating. Critics argue that such a huge number, $2.1 billion, might be inflated or symbolic, since it's almost equal to the size of entire global shea butter market. Others worry that relying too heavily on China could replace one dependency with another. Environmentalists warn of overharvesting and deforestation if demands grow too quickly. And skeptics question whether the wealth will actually reach the women who produce shea butter or if it will be captured by a few elites. These are valid concerns. This deal has potential, but its success will depend on how Burkina Faso manage it internally. So, here's the bottom line. The 2.1 billion shea butter deal between Burkina Faso and China is more than just trade. It's about economic sovereignty, women's empowerment, and dramatic shift in global alliances. For some, this is Africa's finally standing tall and breaking free from Western domination. For others, it's simply swapping one master for another. What's undeniable is this: a product harvested by rural African women is now at the center of global geopolitics, and world is watching. But what do you think? Is this deal a bold step toward African independence or a risky bet on China? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on Africa's changing role in the world.